Chapter 1. The First People. The story of America begins long before Columbus set foot on its shores. For many thousands of years, indigenous tribes flourished across the vast landscapes that would come to be known as America. These first people had migrated from Asia over a land bridge called Beringia, located in the present-day Bering Strait between Russia and Alaska. Over thousands of years, these resilient and diverse tribes adapted to various environments. In the cold, barren Arctic, the Inuit became skilled hunters of seals and whales, constructing sturdy igloos from blocks of snow. In the dense forests of the Northeast, tribes like the Iroquois and Algonquin built longhouses and became adept at fishing, hunting, and cultivating crops. They formed the Iroquois Confederacy, an innovative political system that greatly influenced American democracy. In the plains, tribes like the Lakota and Cheyenne became expert horsemen, following the herds of buffalo that roamed freely. Chapter 2. Explorers from Europe. The late 15th century marked the start of Europe's fascination with exploration. Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator sponsored by Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, set off to find a westward sea route to Asia. In 1492, Columbus landed in the Caribbean, mistakenly believing he had reached the Indies. Columbus's journeys were soon followed by other explorers. Amerigo Vespucci, a Florentine explorer whose name would later be used to label the new continents, embarked on several voyages to the New World, mapping much of South America's eastern coastline. Meanwhile, English explorer John Cabot sailed to the northeastern areas of North America, claiming the region for England. These explorers returned home with tales of rich lands teeming with life, sparking a rush of European voyages to the New World. They also brought diseases from Europe that devastated indigenous populations, leading to massive societal changes for these cultures. Chapter 3. Settlers and Colonies. The 17th century saw an increase in settlers arriving from Europe. England, France, Spain, and the Netherlands all sought to establish colonies in the New World. These colonies were not merely outposts of European power. They were populated by individuals and families seeking a new start. Among the earliest and most significant colonies were Jamestown, established by the English in Virginia in 1607, and Plymouth, established by the Pilgrims in Massachusetts in 1620. The Jamestown settlers hoped to find gold and establish profitable trade routes, while the Pilgrims sought a place where they could freely practice their religion. Life in these early colonies was challenging. Settlers contended with harsh weather conditions, difficult farming, and tense relations with local Native American tribes. Yet, despite these challenges, they gradually established a foothold, and the colonies grew. By the mid-17th century, successful colonies were established along the Atlantic coast, each with its unique character and way of life. Chapter 4. Conflict and Independence. The seeds of discontent were sown in the 18th century as the British government imposed more control over the colonies. The Stamp Act of 1765, which imposed a tax on all paper documents in the colonies, was a significant point of contention. This act, along with other taxes and trade restrictions, led to widespread protests among colonists. Their rallying cry was, "No taxation without representation." The discontent escalated into open conflict in 1775, sparking the American Revolution. The colonists, now identifying themselves as Americans, fought against the British forces in a struggle for self-determination. This conflict, though marked by hardships and losses, saw significant victories for the Americans. Key battles such as the Battle of Saratoga marked turning points, helping to boost morale and secure foreign support. In 1776, representatives from the 13 colonies convened in Philadelphia to sign the Declaration of Independence, a document authored primarily by Thomas Jefferson. This document declared their collective break from British rule, asserting their belief in certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Revolutionary War continued until 1783, culminating in the Treaty of Paris, which officially ended the war and recognized American independence. Chapter 5. A New Nation. In the aftermath of the war, the newly formed United States faced the monumental task of building a new government. At the heart of their efforts was the Constitution, a remarkable document crafted by representatives from all states. This Constitution outlined the structure of the government, ensuring a balance of power between different branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. Moreover, the Constitution also accommodated the Bill of Rights, 10 amendments designed to safeguard the liberties of its citizens. These included freedoms such as the right to free speech, freedom of religion, and the right to a fair trial. These provisions demonstrated America's commitment to a democratic system that respected the rights and liberties of its people. Chapter 6. Expansion and Conflict. The 19th century was a time of rapid growth and expansion for the United States. Manifest destiny, the belief that the American expansion across the continent was both justified and inevitable, fueled this era. Pioneers ventured westward, traversing rugged landscapes and forging new communities in unknown territories. However, this expansion came at a severe cost to Native American tribes who lived on these lands for centuries. The government's Indian removal policies forced many tribes from their ancestral lands, leading to tragic events like the Trail of Tears, where thousands lost their lives during the forced relocations. Simultaneously, a bitter division was brewing between the northern and southern states, primarily centered on the issue of slavery. The southern states, with economies heavily reliant on plantation agriculture, wanted to preserve slavery. The northern states, on the other hand, were largely industrial and favored abolition. Chapter 7. Civil War and Reconstruction. This discord eventually led to one of the darkest periods in American history, the Civil War. The war began in 1861, when several southern states seceded from the Union to form the Confederate States of America. The war saw brothers fighting against brothers, and the nation's very survival was at stake. After 4 bloody years, the Union emerged victorious in 1865. Slavery was abolished, but the war left deep wounds. The following period, known as Reconstruction, was a time of rebuilding. It was an era marked by significant legal and political changes, including the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, which abolished slavery, granted equal protection under the law, and protected voting rights, respectively. However, Reconstruction was also a period of great tension and resistance. The progress towards achieving full equality for all citizens was slow, and challenges were numerous. Despite these difficulties, the country persevered, slowly mending the divides caused by the war. Chapter 8. The Industrial Revolution. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the United States experienced a transformative period known as the Industrial Revolution. With the advent of new technologies and manufacturing processes, production shifted from small, home-based businesses to large-scale factory operations. Innovations like the steam engine, electricity, and the assembly line brought about rapid industrial growth. These changes led to the rise of big businesses and tycoons, sometimes called captains of industry or robber barons, depending on one's perspective. Cities swelled as people moved in search of work, leading to significant urban growth. This period was not without its challenges. Workers often faced harsh conditions, leading to the formation of labor unions and the fight for workers' rights. Chapter 9. The 20th Century and 2 World Wars. The 20th century was a period of dramatic change for the United States. At the beginning of the century, America was primarily focused inward, grappling with the rapid changes brought about by the Industrial Revolution. However, by the mid-century, the U.S. would emerge as a dominant global power. The First World War broke out in Europe in 1914, but the U.S. initially opted for neutrality. It wasn't until 1917, after a series of provocations, that the U.S. entered the war on the side of the Allies. The war ended in 1918, but the peace was short-lived. The Great Depression of the 1930s was one of the most significant economic downturns in U.S. history. This decade-long economic slump caused widespread hardship, with many Americans losing their jobs and homes. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal policy introduced reforms to stabilize the economy and provide relief to suffering Americans. The Second World War began in 1939, and once again, America initially remained neutral. However, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941, America entered the war, fighting alongside the Allies against the Axis powers. The war ended in 1945 with an Allied victory, marking the beginning of a new era for America as a global superpower. Chapter 10: The Cold War and Civil Rights. Post-World War II, America found itself locked in a tense ideological conflict known as the Cold War, primarily with the Soviet Union. Both nations sought to extend their political, economic, and military influence globally. The space race, the threat of nuclear war, and the division of Europe were all defining features of this period. Meanwhile, back home, a major civil rights movement was underway. African Americans and their allies demanded an end to racial segregation and discrimination. Through peaceful protests, powerful speeches, and immense courage, the civil rights movement brought about landmark legislation, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This era also saw significant progress in women's rights, with the second wave of feminism gaining momentum. Women demanded equality in the workplace, in education, and in society at large, leading to considerable advancements towards gender equality. Chapter 11: Challenges in the New Century. Entering the 21st century, the United States faced a series of new challenges. The September 11 attacks in 2001 dramatically impacted the nation's sense of security, leading to significant changes in foreign policy and national security measures. Recently, like the rest of the world, America has been grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's had profound effects on public health and the economy, testing the nation's resilience and underlining the importance of unity in navigating such crises. Simultaneously, America has been addressing environmental challenges, particularly those related to climate change. The increasingly severe impacts of wildfires, hurricanes, and other natural disasters have highlighted the urgent need for sustainable practices and climate change mitigation efforts. Chapter 12: Technology and Innovation. The United States has always been a hotbed of innovation, and this trend has continued into the 21st century. Advances in technology have revolutionized almost every aspect of American life, from communication to transportation, and from healthcare to entertainment. The rise of the internet and digital technologies has drastically changed the way we communicate, access information, and conduct business. The internet has also transformed education, enabling remote learning and providing access to a wealth of knowledge at our fingertips. Similarly, advancements in medical technology have dramatically improved healthcare. Techniques such as gene therapy, precision medicine, and telemedicine are offering new hope to patients and revolutionizing treatment strategies. However, with these advances also come challenges. Issues like data privacy, cybersecurity, and the digital divide are critical concerns as we navigate this digital age. Chapter 13: The American Dream and the Future. Throughout its history, the concept of the American dream has been a guiding narrative. The idea that anyone, regardless of their background, can achieve success through hard work and determination remains a fundamental part of the American ethos. Looking forward, America continues to strive for this dream, constantly seeking ways to build a more equitable and inclusive society. Despite the many challenges faced, the spirit of resilience, innovation, and progress continues to shape America's journey. In the future, America will continue to grapple with pressing issues such as social inequality, climate change, healthcare reform, and technological disruptions. However, with a commitment to democratic values, human rights, and scientific exploration, there is hope for a future where the American dream is attainable for all. This concludes our journey through American history, from its earliest inhabitants to its present-day challenges and opportunities. Each chapter of this story is marked by the courage, determination, and ingenuity of the people who have shaped the nation we know today. It's a complex, sometimes tumultuous, but always fascinating journey that continues to unfold. That, dear friends, is the incredible story of America. Thank you for joining me on this journey.